Okay, you can see the screen. Okay, so thank you very much, Nadja, for inviting me to present here. We did a study starting about a year ago on the COVID experience at the university. At that time, we were talking about what can we do, how can we improve the situation, and of course, you need understanding of the situation in order to improve. So the idea came among several faculty members, and among others, Lynette here, who also helped develop the survey through a meeting and a panel discussion, actually, in which I met Professor Anna Ho from Western City University. There was a panel discussion organized by NIE on the impact of COVID on teaching. So we decided that she would join our party, and we also now have two collaborators in Malaysia and the Philippines, also to understand a bit better what is typical maybe here for Singapore SUTD, and what are other experiences at other universities. Today, I will just focus on SUTD experience, and to the right, several team members have participated in the various phases of this. And of course, also thank you to students and faculty staff who have participated. So let me get just a few things about a lot have been written about the impact of COVID or online education. And there was a very recent study from McKinsey, it was in the US, on scaling online education, 5 lessons for colleges. I will talk about these lessons later on. But what they said is, before the pandemic, scaling an effective online offering was optional for higher education institutions. Now it's a necessity. And they looked at the online growth with the top 10 players. These are mentioned here. They're not necessarily the universities that we know very well, but they seem to focus a lot and already are focused on online learning. Universities where we're more familiar with, you find along here, or Harvard. There is a very, very big difference between those institutions. Main focus is undergraduates rather than non-degree. You see a little bit black here for non-degree, and for graduates, that is also a fair number. So it's something that we are heading towards now. That didn't start with COVID. There were, of course, as you just saw, institutions that already started way before COVID. So there was another study, again, McKinsey, where they talked about reimagining higher education. Apologies, this is all the US, but they said the institutional acceptance of the online delivery model is also increasing. In 2019, so before COVID, there was a poll among the faculty, and about a third fully supported the increase of education technologies at that time, and that was already higher from 2 years before that. Now, then they did another study this year, so 2021, and there, the first one I find is very important. 45%, so half of the people had a better opinion of remote learning since the pandemic began, and fewer than 1 in 5 had a more negative perception. So it has improved the situation, maybe because we've seen it is possible, but I also think because, of course, those providing the tools have really stepped up and added many features. Nevertheless, I mean, these data from the US, this is just a bit of a literature review. Let's have a look at our survey that we did. What we want to better understand is the personal experience and thoughts of our students and staff, so the whole SUTD community, with regards working from home, but also what are the expectations after the disruption. And we hope to get some insights, recommendations, this hybrid model, remote, online, what sort of balance do we expect there, and maybe when, and what about available tools or lacking of tools and experiences. Okay, so let's have a look. As I mentioned, the collaborators that are there. The other three are still collecting that data, so focus now on SUTD, and we had recruitment via email. Always a bit difficult, but the survey had three parts: general questions, demographics, and then one of the questions was whether people were faculty, researchers, students, and based on that was the part 2. That is where the survey split. There were specific questions. They were all in line with each other, but of course activities are different, and then some summarizing questions at the end that were similar for everyone. Okay, so here from SUTD we received 148 responses, lower than we anticipated, but we get so many of these questionnaires, it's also understandable. Western Sydney University and the others, that is coming up now. Okay, so respondents at SUTD, we had 90 students, and that includes PhD students, and we had 58 staff. And if we look at the staff, that is quite nicely distributed: administration, 24, faculty, 16, researchers, 16, and there was 2 others. This was part-time and temporary people. Yeah. Again, we had hoped a little bit more. We are very pleased with the number of administrative staff that has replied, but we'd hoped for a bit more. So we will still we open up the survey again. We hope to also see a bit of a difference now from the past. Okay, so what were the top 3 activities, according to respondents, that affected them most? So for the staff, collaborative work, yeah, that was the main thing. Networking within the university and the one-to-one meetings. The one-to-one meetings, although you might expect that to be, that works with Zoom, so that's not much an issue. It was among the top 3. For the students, it's, first of all, of course, their classes and lectures, but again, collaborative work, projects, and networking within the university. Networking is more the social aspect of it. So these were the top 3 activities affected. We also asked whether for each of these aspects, which ones they felt toughest to adopt to. So the social context, and this is the light color, is the toughest, and this is the easiest. And you can clearly see that the toughest was social contact, the environment, which is more or less working from home or working at the office with all the restrictions. The technology skills, that was not an issue. Yeah, it's actually very clearly the easiest. We also about the flexibility of mindset, because we had to adapt, you all know, we had to adapt very, very often to new rules and new ways of working and new measures. That was okay. Very distributed, and might differ a little bit per type of job or person. But we see that the technology itself was, not the big issue. But it's a social contact, and I think that is something we always see work as work, that this way you go to and you dare to work, and your social contacts are outside of work. And I think we've all experienced that we do miss that part. And I remember when it was time that we went back, that people said, "Oh, I'm so glad to be at work." And I think there were statements, I heard it so often. I'm sure you too, who wouldn't have heard that before. So I think it very much emphasized the additional role of meeting up with people and not having seen your next door neighbor in your office for over a year. You miss the conversation, you miss picking up what they are working on. And even if they work on very different projects than you do, you get a better sense of the university and what lives there just by chatting in the corridor, by finding each other, over a cup of coffee. Okay, so now there are some differences between staff, that includes researchers, etc., and the students. We looked at the average, and we see that the toughest is that we just saw that social contact, and that's about the same for staff and students. The next one is the environment. That was more difficult for staff than for students. It might be because staff, the other way around, I apologize, for students rather than for staff. That might be because students often live in their one room. There is far less, their home environment is far less conducive. The flexible mindset, that's about the same, and this is out of a 4-point scale, flexible mindset. But technology, the students were, as we all know, they found that not very tough at all. For staff, they found it more, less easy, but it's not the toughest to adapt to. Doesn't mean there are no problems, as we see later. Now, there are also non-technical issues. We have the technical issues, non-technical issues. For the staff, personal issues, mainly in the home situation or, that sort of aspects. And also the non-conducive environment. Yeah? And the students, actually, exactly the same. So you see all the things that rank high are not about the technology or the environment. They're mainly, your situation, the social contact. So for those people who worked in the office or at the university as students during the COVID disruption, what did they like? Yeah, better communication and collaboration possible. Also peaceful environment, of course, because there weren't many people at the university at the time, and also the socializing. Yeah? And the negative aspects, the restrictive guidelines, and I know they are not our choice. They come with the whole situation, but that was found very disruptive, that there is lesser interaction. Yeah, if it's more peaceful, then there are usually less people. And again, you see that all of these are the same for the students and the staff. And the last one, the commuting, was only mentioned as a negative thing if you have to go to the office by the students, not by the staff. So the working at home, so this was working in the office, now we're working at home. What are the positive aspects? The flexibility, that you have. That there is no commuting. Again, both of them mentioned that in this case. So commuting seems to be maybe not the biggest issue, but it certainly pops up as an advantage. And that also means people will have more time. And of course, that is a good thing. Working at home, lots of distractions, again, mentioned by both. The distractions could be very different. And the environment as such is not always conducive. And we've seen that, the internet not working correctly, the backgrounds or cats walking past your camera. And communication issues for working at home, that was in particularly mentioned by the students. And of course, these are important issues. It's again, the social aspect of it. So what are the challenges for the university as a whole? So we now wanted to say, okay, not for yourself, but for the university as a whole, what do you see are some of the challenges? And the staff mentioned, and this is in order of mentioned frequency, the emotional aspects of teaching. And I know that all of you who are teaching know that, it's very different of talking to a classroom where you can see, do they get what I say or not, from a set of images. If you have videos on, it's often too many to see. You're just like I'm doing now, sort of talking to a camera, almost to yourself. And you don't see whether, the reaction of the audience. And that is something that I think all of us are missing very much. Communication issues, and that can certainly relate to the hardware and to the technology, but also the aspect that I just mentioned, does my message get across or not? And for the student, these were the highest ranked. The other ones were very, very few. Social interaction for the students and going online, they saw, and that might have to do with the issue that they not necessarily have a stable internet connection. So it's not the technology as such in the sense of their, the software that they're using, but the whole issue of going online. And of course, in different countries, it's not too bad in Singapore, but we know, and I know from Capstone, that some students really struggled. They just do not have at home the internet connection that we actually require. So now we are looking into Campus X. We really need to look into that issue too. And of course, prototyping hands-on activities. Fortunately, the university, wherever possible, was able to allow the students in to do prototyping, but of course that was much more limited. So these will remain, in general, the challenges of this. And here are some statements from staff: ability to deliver quality online teaching and overall learning experience of the students during this period, where a lot of activities are restricted. And I think it's in particularly the quality and the experiences that are suffering there. But also the communications, the understanding of the content. It's just very, very different of whether a head is talking to you or, whether someone is standing there and you move your body, you walk around, and that is part of teaching. So for the students, loss of social interaction and opportunities, note that they talk about loss, because many of them live maybe on their own. This second one is also something that, trying to concentrate during online classes and trying to communicate with other people. That is really a big thing. Concentrating on a screen is very different from concentrating in a classroom. And of course, it affects the projects that involve physical prototyping. So the opportunities, we asked, what are opportunities? What have, from what we have learned? So the staff mentioned leverage online tools, because not just the tools like what we're using now, Zoom, etc., but there are a lot of other things where it's Miro boards or, online whiteboards. Suddenly we realize there's a whole plethora of those sort of tools. And the flexibility, that we allow more flexibility in our schedule of working from home and at university. But also they see this an opportunity for a much broader education opportunity, because online tools could also include online material. So there is a lot that we can do, and I'm sure that the Campus X project that has started, that can work on these aspects. So what for the students, what do they see as opportunities? Also online tools. They love it, they like it, and it gives more flexibility in the teaching. Also, they see an evolution of the education system. Despite them being worried about not being at university and missing the social contact, they do see that this might have just forced us to use a broader spectrum of tools. And we quite liked this statement that it came from students. So they're not just receivers of our information. They really are concerned and want to participate. And I think that's also for the projects that we are doing, that we involve the students in that. But also they say there's opportunity to have a better infrastructure, because that was something that they also complained about. So some statements from the staff: the ability to tap on and leverage virtual platforms to enhance teaching, not replace, enhance. And it also allows collaborating in new ways. There are multiple communication channels possible. And of course, we can offer our education opportunities also for those outside of the country, so that SUTD might become more worldwide acting university. And the students, they taking advantage of online interaction tools, but balance them. yeah, with in-person. So it's always about that balance. They also suggested switching to a better decentralized system, allowing flexible remote working and learning. That probably also relates to the commuting times that are often involved. And also a better infrastructure for dealing with global crisis, better virtual opportunities. So when something happens, hopefully it will not, but another pandemic or something else, we would have things in place. And I think we weren't as prepared as, and not just us, but in general, less prepared than we might have been. Okay, what did they miss from the pre-COVID things? The staff, the safety, and less guidelines. Yeah, if you would just talk to people, you could just go to work whenever you want. Campus life, yeah, going for a cup of coffee rather than sitting again for your next meeting behind the computer, and also the physical facilities, the facilities that are there. And of course, that can be from printers to copiers to your lab to anything. For the students, the gatherings and interactions, the physical facilities also, and the safety and guidelines. Yeah? So you see, it's quite similar. I think campus life, you could equate to gatherings and interaction. The level of importance that they assign to that is slightly different. And here are some statements, being able to interact with people freely without restrictions or access to your equipment. And the students just hanging out for large gatherings and parties, and the hands-on we mentioned, but also the safety when going out. That is what they missed most. So what were the biggest challenges they experienced in life due to COVID? SUTD staff, the challenge was to find this work-life balance. On one end, the flexibility of home. On the other end, also the distraction that you have. So how to get the balance? It's a very different balance, or you have to find your own balance. I think that's the better word to use. Of course, the biggest challenge, health and safety, yeah? But also job uncertainties. And to be honest, I wouldn't have expected it here at the university context, but it is a worry of people. Maybe it reflects more in general in their life and their family. For the students, health and safety, yeah, that was their challenge, but also emotional judgment. And you see popping up this social, this personal aspect. And we know from Capstone that students were definitely more stressed this year. They were more easy to get out of balance. They were more on edge or complain, or there was just a difference, a real difference. Last year, it wasn't easy, but it almost seemed more the practical side of things. And this year with Capstone, we noticed that I think it has worn us out. It has worn all of us out. So emotional judgment, and I think that's a very important thing that might last, was my personal opinion, might last a bit longer than just, we can go back to university and everything turns to normal. So it's something that we need to look into. And the biggest change is working from home. What did they like during COVID? More time, especially because there's no commuting again, staff and students. Similarly, like more time, work from home, and the flexibility. So, and I think these three things go really hand in hand. And here from staff, I can manage my own time more. Of course, that depends on how many meetings you have. But also you can utilize Zoom more easy to engage with colleagues across the world. Whereas normally you would meet at conferences, you can't now. So it's more easy to do that. We just use it more. And of course, more flexible work arrangement. And for the students, have the time for self-learning and develop self-learning skills. Maybe that is something that we should help the student with and offer some courses. I know HR is offering a lot of courses or seminars at the moment, which is very good. But also higher concentration after adapting to the work from home lifestyle, which is a good point. I thought that was quite interesting. And of course, having the opportunity to learn about different platforms and tools. And again, we could help the students with that too. What would they have liked during COVID? Yeah. Again, for both physical and social interaction, a work-life balance. So you see, although they like it, it's still, maybe it's again something that we need to learn better. And again, from the students, and that's the point that came up a few times, they would have liked more mental support and awareness. And I think we're not at the end of it yet, so we need to pay attention to that. So the staff, they would have liked, of course, the social interactions, the better organization. Also, although it wasn't their highest one, people did mention a better opportunity for mental health, fitness. And for the students, of course, socialization. And they complain about less assignments or homework to do. And consultation to improve my mental health. Yeah. So you see that pops up quite a few times. Overall impressions, so in summary, what we think, there have been greater social-emotional issues for both students and staff. And that is much bigger than the technical issue. And probably less easy to solve. In general, it wasn't easy, we all know that. And also teaching online classes without prior training was a hard transition for both groups. I know from some other universities that I know, they, like in Delft, they have for years, they already had a yearly training of 1 day for all faculty about the latest tools, so that the moment that they had to go online, they just went online. Majority of universities did not do that, but I think we need to keep this up, and so that if there is a switch to be made for whatever reason, and however long or short, that we can do that. People miss the campus, yeah, definitely. So it means that campus is really is at the heart of your work, and it's at the heart of your studying, no matter how much you like working at home. And that means that there needs to be a balance. Yeah. And for a variety of reasons, of course, there are disadvantages. So we need to find the right balance, and that may differ per person. It may differ per occupation, per profession. It may differ just because of the particular work that you do. Okay. So recommendations, obviously from what I mentioned, retain the best of both. And we need to deep dive a bit more. Of course, we have more material than what I presented to see how could we find that balance. And it might be a combination of things. We need to build in more opportunities, maybe also online, social, emotional bonding, community bonding, social bonding. We need to customize things because it differs from what you do. And of course, we need to ensure there is quality in online teaching. And that means that not just the tools, but that as instructors, that we get trainings, that we have infrastructure support. And I know the university has had worked hard on that, but it's not easy, and tools develop all the time. And our suggestion is we need to keep on doing that. We need to, for any future ideas. Okay, so I want to end with just a few the lessons for colleges, etc., from McKinsey study on scaling. What are 5 key success factors to plan and implement quality online programs? This is further than just the replacement or included in our normal teaching, but I thought it was worth their study showed. Develop a student-centered approach. It's not us delivering, it's about the students receiving. We are design universities, so that should be user-centered approach should be very important. But it also includes that there is more personal counseling and guidance, that there is the opportunity to engage in person, as well as to larger communities online. And there has to be support, yeah, this is from the McKinsey report, to enhance the learning experience. establish an online organization with clear accountability. There's a designated unit where people and faculty participation in all of this, and also clear targets when we will do what. Finally, involve faculty early and enable academic staff to launch successful programs. That comes back to the training part. Online offerings take time, yeah? And it's also to develop, was their suggestion, a standardized end-to-end process to support the faculty, yeah? Instructional design, standard course proposals, etc. Marketing, yeah, we can, that's also, I think, for us very interesting to do that. And it may also mean that we have to adjust our processes to align with the different needs. Another study of McKinsey, and that's my last slide, reimagining the office and work life after COVID-19. And they suggested 4 steps. We need to look at how work is done and how we could do it, and decide people to work or work to people, and what combination of that, redesigning the workplace to support organizational priorities, and of course, we can resize the footprint. There are some, we haven't discussed that in detail, but there are those aspects too. You can still participate. If you want to participate, haven't done so yet, here is the link. Okay, thank you very much for allowing me to present this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Professor Lucienne, for sharing this survey. This is not just done in SUTD, it's also with the Australian University. So that was quite interesting to see